what are you thinking when you're engaging in the jungles against an enemy that's, pretty accurate and pretty swift?
Fear is just unimaginable. When your stress level gets that high, you begin to lose your fine motor coordination. You've been on the range and you've fired thousands of rounds at a target, but those targets are not shooting back. And one of the things that you have to learn how to do is manage the fear. If I get so distracted with the bullets coming at me, I can't lead. I can't tell my people what to do.
So sometimes fear could literally paralyze you
It
and,
does.
and stop you from moving forward.
Stop you dead in your tracks,
Yeah.
and could be literally dead. Fear is going to be there. I have to learn how to use the energy that I'm getting from the fear and managing the battle space in front of me.
Dick Thompson, welcome to the Man of War podcast. It is an honor to have you on, my friend.
It's an honor to be here. Good to
Now,
meet you. Thank you.
first of all, I want to say thank you for the books that you sent me. And we're going to put everything in the show notes after this podcast because you guys need to start reading his books. But we'll get to that a little bit later. All right, let's first and foremost, for those who don't know who you are, would you mind introducing yourself?
Okay. I'm Dick Thompson, and I'm born and raised in a small town in South Carolina, Walhalla, South Carolina, about 20 miles from the Clemson University, and grew up kind of on a farm or in an outdoor area. So I spent a lot of time on my own playing in the woods and tracking animals, following animals, learning how to be around them. And one of the things I wanted to learn how to do is how can I be invisible? How
Hmm.
can I walk up on them, get really close to them? And became interested in the military because uh, my mother's five brothers and my father were all deployed in World War II at the same time. Uh, Clyde, one of her brothers, didn't make it back. And then when Korea came along, my father was called back in, went to Korea. So I kind of grew up with a lot of military talk, asking questions. What is a squad? What is a platoon? What do they do? How do they interact? Um, Learning field craft and things like that. So um, wanted to become a ranger. And then when I was 13, I was sabotaged by Santa Claus. I got a chemistry set, and all of a sudden I discovered I had a real passion for chemistry too. So I kind of began to focus on chemistry. I went to college on a chemistry scholarship, but after a couple of years, listening to the news at night about what was going on in Vietnam, I decided that if I wanted to go participate and be a patriot, I needed to go now. If I waited till I finished college, it'd probably be over and I would miss it. So I took a break from school, went in and volunteered to go in with the plan of staying 3 years. I got into Rangers, Special Forces, all that kind of stuff, and uh, really enjoyed what I was doing. Went to Vietnam, and it took me 21 years to get out,
Wow.
but I finally did. Started a consulting company when I got out, and been doing that for a number of years now.
Excellent. Excellent. All right. So I want to dive into the meat of the matter here. And I know that the listeners are very curious. So you went through your military career, then you got deployed out to Vietnam. I know that you were in SOG and you were, definitely a soldier that worked in a obviously in an environment that was, for all intents and purposes, a very difficult environment. I think Vietnam in general was, there were so many complexities to that environment. So, can we go into that a little bit? Maybe talk about some of the operations that you were involved with. I know you were part of something called Dynamite.
Well, yeah, I had an opportunity when I got to Vietnam to volunteer for MACV-SOG, which was a top secret organization that no one knew existed, or if you did, you didn't know what they did. But basically, we ran deep penetration missions into Laos, Cambodia, North Vietnam, and some of the other adjacent countries there. And no identification, no dog tags, no ID, nothing that said that I was an American, which meant I wasn't covered by the Geneva Convention. If I was captured, I could be executed on the spot as a spy. The government was not going to come in and say, oh, yeah, we know him. We want to get him back. So we were on our own to, uh, based on our missions, go anywhere, do anything, anytime, and not talk about it for 20 years. So when we went on a mission, it was we I might have a 6 or 7 man team and be going against a 500 man North Vietnamese battalion. And so, you know, at that time being young, I kind of thought, well, that's pretty even odds. 6 or 7 of
Oh,
us,
oh,
500 of them. I
500 against five.
Yeah, and we had, good thing is all 500 of them couldn't shoot at us at one time. It's kind of like if you're on the street and you have multiple opponents, you don't get in the center of them. You got to keep moving around,
Sure.
and we do the same thing with them and use airstrikes and accomplish our mission and try to get back out. So it was pretty exciting.
How did you get selected to be part of that?
I was asked when I was in processing into Vietnam. The last thing they asked me in the in processing process was if I would like to volunteer for SOG. And when I asked, well, what what does SOG do? And they said the only way you can find out is join. If you volunteer and join SOG, then you can find out. Otherwise, we'll just put you out in the Special Forces unit, and you can do that. So I went ahead and volunteered. So, 21 years old. My prefrontal cortex had not fully developed yet. I didn't know about risk taking. I didn't realize that I wasn't bulletproof.
Right.
So I went out
Now,
to do that.
what type of gear did you have in these black ops, because I imagine you guys were pretty lightweight on gear.
Actually, we were heavy.
Really? Okay.
Um, I when I would go on a mission, I would probably be carrying 75 pounds or more of gear,
Hmm.
mostly ammunition.
Wow.
So, the good thing about that is as you return fire and shoot at the bad guys, you use up your ammunition so it gets lighter, but that means you don't have as much either. So
Sure. To
you had to carry a lot because you were so far out. It was going to take a long time to get any support coming in. So you had to be able to take care of yourself for a while. So we carried a lot of ammunition. I mean, I carried 50 20 round magazines of ammunition, for my rifle. I
Wow.
carried 10 fragmentation grenades. So I had a lot of weight on me and
So you really
move
you really
slowly.
needed to learn, right? How to move with that heavy equipment,
Right.
man. That's a lot of weight.
It's a lot of weight. And normally we would be moving very slowly
Mm,
because we didn't want to make any noise. We didn't want to get discovered. Once discovered, then we had to move, a lot faster, obviously. But most of the time we were moving, very slowly. But it was a lot of gear.
can you talk about any of the missions that you did?
Uh, we give you just kind of overview. We did things like um, wiretaps where we would go into a particular country, find the wires running through the trees, and we had a little device we could uh, plug into the wires with and record what they were saying, on their telephones. So we would collect that kind of information. Sometimes we would sit on the edge of a cliff, watch a major highway, the Ho Chi Minh Trail, watch the vehicles going up and down it, see what was in them. And then sometimes we were out there just to put airstrikes on those vehicles to stop them, destroy them. Sometimes it was a prisoner snatch. You go out and you uh, grab two or three North Vietnamese soldiers and bring them back so that they could be interrogated. Um,
Wow.
and then, they were just a lot of, combat type missions in addition to sometimes just looking to see where the bad guys were
Hmm.
and reporting that back.
Wow. And you were always under the radar.
Right.
So your comms, you weren't communicating with any headquarters. It was just you guys.
Rarely. We were so far out. Uh, we had we had an aircraft that was flying really high in a big orbit
Hmm.
around the area that we were in that we could in an emergency. Our radios would reach up to the plane and we could tell them we had an emergency going on.
Hmm.
And if we had an emergency because we were being overrun, um, then everything flying in that part of Southeast Asia um, would be diverted to us. If they had enough fuel to get to us, they still had armament left on the aircraft, they would be sent to us
Hmm.
to help us to try to escape and get out. They didn't want, the government obviously didn't want us to be caught.
Right.
So we had a lot of priority once, we got in trouble. It just takes a long time,
Sure.
because you're way
Who
out
who
there.
who was the commander, the leader of this type of operation? Who did you report to?
I had a company commander that was back in South Vietnam.
Hmm.
That was my boss, and I was the team leader, so I had a team, and I would be assigned a mission, and then we'd go through preparation for that, go to the launch site, be flown over into whichever country we were going into, and dropped off there. Uh, and then we had a small aircraft that would come out during the day and fly around that we could talk to, and could get us more help if we needed it. But we didn't talk much because the enemy could triangulate us. They pick up the signal from the radio, and then they could figure out where we were,
Sure.
and come pay us a visit.
So sometimes were you out there for days on end?
Uh, a, a lot of times the mission was planned for 5 days. And then, depending on how well the North Vietnamese cooperated, we might be there 5 days, or we might only be out there a day or two before we got chased out. So
So when these missions were brought to you and they said, Dick, you're going to be the team leader for XYZ, were the men selected by your commander or did you select them?
I had a team already.
Okay.
I had
Okay.
myself and one or two other Americans that were part of my team,
Okay.
and then I had nine indigenous members. Um, two of on two of my teams that I had while I was there were the indigenous were Vietnamese, and the other team I had they were mountain yards. Um, so I had 12 people that counting myself, that I could choose from, and depending on what the mission was, that I would take some number
Hmm.
up to
Hmm.
12
Hmm.
out on the mission with me, and occasionally we might put two teams together. So I had some missions where there was going to be a lot of combat, a lot of fighting, and we needed more firepower. So I would, combine my team with another team, and we'd take, 20 or so of us out.
How did you prepare for these missions? Did you actually practice, train, or was it, well, you're leaving tomorrow and see you later, grab your team and go?
For the most part, we had a chance. We were briefed on the mission. We knew where we were going. We got to study the maps, um, and then we could go to the range. And a few times we could go to. There was a mountain close to us. It was all jungle, so we could go practice in the jungle, practice our movement, practice our immediate action drills, the things that we would do
Mhm.
if we made contact with the enemy, who goes where, and how do we, escape from there. So we would practice, get ready, and then they would fly us out, insert us on the ground, and leave us there to try to accomplish the mission. And then the most difficult part was to come back and get us out because when we were leaving, very often the bad guys already knew where we were. They were already shooting at us, and it could be hundreds of them, and we may already, many of us might already be wounded. So it was difficult to get out. So
I'm sorry, this fascinates me. So I'm gonna dig a little
that's
bit
okay.
deeper here. So when you were deployed and you were then, set up for your mission and you had a location where you needed to go to, and say that location took you a day to get there. In that night when you camped out, I mean, how did you choose, number one, where you camped, and how did it work as far as somebody staying up and watching and making sure that you didn't get hit by, incoming forces?
Yeah, we would typically use what we called a fish hook. We would be moving along, excuse me, we'd be moving along, and then we would make a turn and kind of circle around and go into the thickest vegetation and stuff that we could find. And that's where we would set up for the night. The purpose of the fish hook was if we were being followed by the enemy, they would walk past us. We would hear them go by before they realized we had turned and come back around. So
Wow.
we knew we were about to get hit. We also would set up claymore mines on the most likely avenues that they would come down to try to get us. Uh, and we'd be in a little small circle. I could touch the person on my right and left in their little circle. So I could wake up the person on my right and left if I needed to, or send a signal. They would signal others, and within a few seconds it would go around the circle. Um, we always kept a few people awake, depending on how much enemy activity we'd had during the day. Um, Sometimes we might all stay up, but usually I tried to have at least a third of the people uh, sleeping, and
Hmm.
we'd rotate it. You sleep for an hour or so, and then you wake up the guy next to you, and you all swap off so that we keep some people up. And then we used a technique that I thought was really cool when I was shown how to do this, but because I'm next to two people. Uh, if you reach and grab someone by their tricep,
Hmm.
reach over and you grab the back of their arm, their tricep, and they're asleep, and you just start to squeeze it slowly. It's almost like as you squeeze, their eyes open up, and and they know that if I'm waking them up or someone's waking them up, the first thing they're going to do is listen. What do they hear? Is there someone walking through our perimeter or walking close to us? Some people talking? Is there any enemy activity going on? Um, and it might not be. It might be I was snoring.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
my buddy reaches over and he wakes me.
mhm.
But that technique of squeezing
Wow,
is
that's
just
interesting.
amazing. It
Yeah.
doesn't scare you. Your
Wow.
your eyes open like that. And
Wow,
particularly after you've done it a few times and you just expect that. So,
that's
uh,
crazy.
but
And
once you go down at night, once you get on the ground, then there's no more movement. If someone's moving around in the dark, it's an enemy soldier.
right.
So somebody will probably take him out.
Now, did you have sleeping bags or you had
No,
an
no,
area? So it was
no,
just,
no. You
wow,
just had a little poncho that you could lay over you, to help keep some of the rain off. I kept my feet uncovered all the time so that I could move very quickly if I needed to kick or roll over or jump up and run. I needed to be able to do that. I needed to be able to hear. I could, my weapon was laying across my lap all the time where I had access to it, so. No sleeping bags or anything like that. You're just kind of laying there in the
wow,
jungle, getting rained on or whatever.
crazy. So you would sleep an hour or two and then, then you would rotate in and out. I mean, how tired and sleepy were guys that only were able to get 1 or 2 hours of sleep? I mean, that's tough.
Well, in a night, you would get more than one or two because there'd be a couple
Okay,
cycles of it. So,
got it,
but
got it.
you may get three or four, and if it was there was really no activity around you, you might even get more.
Okay.
So,
All right.
uh,
So you were pretty fresh, pretty much, or in the morning. You would be
when
all
you would
right
wake up.
for the
If
most part.
you might not get some sleep because of the rain.
Right.
It's a rainforest. It's raining. It's going to rain on you every day. And then
Yeah.
sometimes it rains on you at night and you
Did you
actually
ever
get
have a,
cold.
I bet, I bet. Did you ever have an issue with animals or things like that or encroaching in your
You
area?
had you had to watch for snakes in the areas that we were going into. There was something like 40 venomous snakes
Oh,
in
Lord.
the area.
Wow.
And you were even if there were no enemy, the closest helicopter was probably an hour, 2 hours away from you.
Yeah.
So if a snake bit you, one of the really venomous snakes bit you, the chances of them coming out, picking you up, taking you back to a hospital, I mean that even without the enemy, that could be 4 or 5 hours. But the enemy, when they heard the helicopter coming, they were going to slow it down. So you had to be careful about getting bitten by a snake. Um, there are some areas where, there are tigers, 400 plus pound tigers,
Yeah.
hungry,
Huh.
looking for something to eat. And a tiger is just unbelievably strong. They can take one paw and just reach over and grab a hold of you and pick you up and run off with you. I mean, it's just
Crazy.
unreal.
Crazy.
And even though they're huge, they're very quiet. And they can walk right up on you.
Wow. Wow. Incredible. Incredible stories. So, kind of guide me along here. So in the mornings, typically you would make your ground throughout the day and then get to the designated area and then do your intel work, whatever it was, to execute your mission. Now, talk to me about when you said extraction was always the most difficult. Usually you had your enemies, on your heels by that time.
Yes. I mean, eventually they'll find you because they have people that we call trackers. They were like a human, bloodhound following any signs that you left behind to try to figure out where you were going and where you were. And a lot of times the trackers would have a dog. And the dog is following your trail and they can smell you. They can hear the slightest sound that you make. So they're out hunting you the whole time. Um, so and particularly if they have a dog, they will eventually find you. I mean, we used to put out some powdered CS, powdered tear gas with some black pepper mixed in it. We'd kind of leave that on the trail for a dog to sniff
Yeah.
and kind of messes, sense the smell up. But the problem is uh, they hear better than they smell.
Oh
So
boy.
if you make a
Yeah.
little sound up there
Yeah.
someplace, he just locks on to you and he's going to lead them right to you.
Sure. Do you consider them or did you consider them a formidable enemy? Were
Yes.
they tough?
Yeah. The North, not the, I mean, the Viet Cong were tough, but the North Vietnamese, regular army, I mean, they were probably, you would probably rank them at that time like number four in the world. in terms of
Hmm.
armies and the proficiency. Plus, you were operating in their backyard. I
Right.
mean, they lived in the jungle. They were in the jungles all the time and
Yeah.
training. So they were tough, and there were so many of them where we went.
Right.
There's always a ton of them out there. So
Did you ever lose a man in your team?
yes, and I mean every time we went out, um, people would be wounded,
Hmm.
and one of the reasons, I kind of like six or seven people on the team, but that meant I still had some indigenous uh, back in camp.
Hmm.
And when I would come back from a mission, some people would have to be go to the hospital to be treated or be treated and come back, but they were not capable of going on a mission for 2 or 3 weeks. So, but I had some fresh people back here
Hmm.
that I would bring on the team while the others are healing up. Um, so, SOG existed, for about 8 years.
Hmm.
And during that time, there were like 4,000 people who were members of SOG
Hmm.
across that 8 year period,
Right.
usually a year at a time or
Hmm.
less. So 8,000 people. Out of that, about 600 were the actual operators, the people who went across the border, went on the missions. Out of those 600, over 350 were killed. There's
Wow.
still like 58 missing in action now.
Wow.
So your life expectancy on a SOG team was low.
Sure.
And, it was because you were in such horrific, insane firefights when you made contact with the enemy because there were so many of them, you know, and you had to hold them off sometimes an hour. If the weather was bad, you might have to hold them off 2 hours, 3 hours, before you could get help. Um, and that's hard to do.
So let's get into that a little bit. I mean, first I want to tip my hat off to you and give you deep respect because I believe that the soldiers, especially going into Vietnam, and they were at another caliber. They were at another caliber. Those were tough times. Technology was not nearly as advanced as it is now or over the last 20 years. I think that so that was definitely heroic efforts from the men that were boots on ground there. How was your mindset when you went into battle? I mean, it's strategically, tactically. I mean, from a leader's position, and you have to engage. I mean, what are you thinking when you're engaging in the jungles against an enemy that's pretty accurate and pretty swift?
When I went on my first mission, and I was on the helicopter flying out to where we were going to be inserted, uh, I was thinking uh, it's okay to shoot these people. That's my job. That's what I've been trained to do, and it's okay for me to shoot them.
Hmm.
Um, and if I don't shoot them, they're going to shoot me. So I've got to be good at what I'm doing.
Sure.
And I had tried to imagine, numerous occasions, what will the fear level be like? I
Hmm.
mean, obviously, somebody starts shooting at you, your stress level's going up, fear's going up. What was that going to be like? And what I discovered was when the helicopter was trying to land, they ambushed us at that site. We never even got off the helicopter on the first thing, but you're the guy next to me, the other American on my side. I jumped back up on the edge of the helicopter. The bullets missed me, hit him. So I pulled him back up on the helicopter by the back of his gear, blood squirting out all over the place. He's screaming and rolling around. Everybody's shooting from inside the helicopter out. All the bad guys are shooting at the helicopter. The bullets are coming and crisscrossing inside the cargo compartment and somehow missing most of us. And there's hundreds of them coming. And I was thinking, how is this possible? How can they not be hitting all of us.
Hmm.
There's so many bullets coming, and bullets come really fast, and they hit really hard, and they're hitting the helicopter, and we're shooting back. And I emptied my magazine. I'd shot a couple people, but I couldn't get a new magazine out of my pouch. My hand was so covered with blood and it was slick, I couldn't get a hold of the magazine tight enough to pull it out of the pouch at first. I eventually got it out. And then when I went to put it in the magazine well of the weapon, I couldn't get it in that little hole. My
Hmm.
hand was shaking and moving around.
Right.
And one of the things as I processed it later was when your stress level gets that high, you begin to lose your fine motor coordination. Things that you can do real easily, you and I just sitting here now, to put a magazine in, not a problem. Pull it out of that pouch, not a problem. But when people are shooting back at you, it
Sure.
becomes difficult. Um, all kind of things about your body physiologically start to change. You've been on the range and you've fired thousands of rounds at a target on a range, but those targets are not shooting back. And you've been trained on how to get a good sight picture with your weapon using the sights. And then you discover when people start shooting at you, you can't see the sights. Your vision changes. As your stress level goes up, your vision actually changes and you can't see close up.
Yeah.
You're out beyond the end of your weapon. You can see out there. You just can't see here where the sights are. And
Yeah.
that's how you've been trained to shoot.
Yeah.
So all of those things start to happen. Fear is just unimaginable. I mean, you just can't imagine how high and how scared you can get. And one of the things that you have to learn how to do is manage the fear.
Hmm.
If I get so distracted with the bullets coming at me, I can't lead. I can't tell my people what to do because the plan's going to start changing as soon as we get on the ground because the bad guys are not cooperating. And I've got to know where everybody is and where we need to be going and managing the battle space in front of me. If I get so distracted with fear, I can't do that. Fear is going to be there. I have to learn how to use the energy that I'm getting from the fear to help me do carry this heavy weight, do the things that I have to do. And you learn, if you go out a few times, how to start doing that, or you get so you can't go out. You just won't go. You'll go tell the boss, I can't do this anymore. I need another job. So
So sometimes fear could literally paralyze you
it does
and stop you from moving forward.
stop you dead in your tracks,
Yeah.
and it could be literally dead, but
Yeah.
it'll get so you can't move. I mean, in our company now, we do a lot of work with organizations that have high stress environments, like nuclear operators at a nuclear plant.
Hmm.
Inside that control room, the
Hmm.
stress level skyrockets sometimes, and and you can literally see some people just freeze and they can't move, and they're just standing there frozen because the fear level is so high. Working with the groups, with the operators on how to manage that,
Hmm.
so that you don't lock up totally like that, is important.
So let's talk about fear while we're at it. So let's take it a notch lower for example, businessmen, people that are entrepreneurs, people that are starting their own business and maybe get frightened of the unknown. Because, what I've seen throughout, years and years of coaching and coaching men specifically and in law enforcement is exactly what you just said. The fear of the unknown paralyzes the individual. How do you think, or what do you think the best way to overcome that fear occurs?
Now, there's some principles that I kind of put together that I used and that I teach now. And one is practice. Whatever it is that you're going out to do, practice and practice and practice. Just like if you're going to be, on a pro football team, for example, you practice all the time, and over and over and over doing the same thing. And on a team like we were on, you do the same thing. I have to practice loading. I have to practice, and we do this with law enforcement, with SWAT teams, as well as special ops, military guys. It, you've got to do more than just stand on a range and shoot at a static target.
Hmm.
You have to learn how to move and shoot, moving sideways, one or another, going forward, going backwards, and shoot. You have to be able to shoot at a moving target that's going around. Then you have to practice that. You have to reload while you're moving. You have to figure out how do you reload your weapon while you're moving and still engage a target. And what about when your weapon jams? Eventually, it's going to jam. You've got to clear that jam while you're moving here, and
Hmm.
people are shooting at you. You have to practice that. You can't wait till you get in a gunfight and experience a jam, and then say, okay, now how do I unjam this thing? What's the tech? It's too late.
Hmm.
You're going to get shot. So
Yeah.
if I can practice it, so I'm comfortable, I know what I'm going to do, then that gives me more confidence. That brings the fear level down a little more so that I can manage it better. And I mean, all the pros do that. It doesn't matter, if we, with athletes, you can see them. They practice all the time. Practice, practice, practice. And the other thing, and one of the other principles I have is you have to be able to adapt. You can put together the best plan in the world, but when the action starts, something's going to change.
Hmm.
Something's going to be different, and you're going to have to adapt to it. And you need to
Yeah.
be able to do that on the fly. Um, and that reduces my fear if I'm used to adapting, because in our training, we're setting up situations where we have to adapt. Things are
Yeah.
coming at us out of nowhere, and we have to adapt. So there's some things like that that can help you build your confidence, build your skill level, manage the fear, use
Hmm.
the fear to give you the energy. So,
That's
that's a
great.
long answer to a short question, but so
No, that's very good. I mean that's very very important. You made a great point there when it comes to, real time, firefighting, right? Like if you're in a gunfight, um, a lot of guys think that it's just going to the range and, pointing at the target and squeezing the trigger. But when you get involved in a malfunction and you have to move and clear your weapon jam and you have to re-engage the target, all these different elements, if you're not practicing them, you're probably a dead man walking. I mean,
right.
I agree 100%. So tell me a little bit about, when it comes to courage, right? Even though it has to do with fear, there are those men who move forward in spite of fear, right? Men who are courageous, who are brave. What do you think was that factor that those men that would walk with you in really in these horrible environments? What do you think was the difference between them and the men who were fearful?
I think, I mean, you can see that start to play out quickly. It's hard to tell if we're just talking,
Hmm.
but when we get into a gunfight or a situation like that, I mean, you can see some people do. They're going to move. They're going to go forward. Um, and some of that comes from, uh, do they trust me? I'm the
Hmm.
leader. Do they trust me to be saying, move right, move left, or whatever it is? Do they trust me when I tell them, and like with my team, uh, I told them, if you get hit, you get shot or whatever, hit with shrapnel or whatever, uh, I want you to start yelling, hit, 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 because regardless of the language that they spoke, they could all learn to say hit. I said, I need to hear you say hit so I know that you're hit. I know that you're alive, and I can kind of figure out where you're dropping down into the vegetation out of sight, so I can come get you. If I know you're hit, I'll come get you. I'm not gonna um, I'm not gonna leave you there. I'm gonna come get you, and then after they see me demonstrate that a few times, in a gunfight, then their trust in me as a leader starts to go up because if if we're getting overrun or people are getting hit, they know I'm going to come get them, and that makes them have more trust in me, feel better, more confident. They'll move forward better, and they know I'm moving with them. Because, lead by example is another one of the principles, and everybody knows you should do that. But when people are shooting at you, if they see me moving, then they're, motivated to move too. They'll follow me. The rule that we had was when we come in on a landing zone on the helicopter, I go off first. I'm standing on a skid. I jump off. I'm on the ground. The rest of you guys need to be coming behind me. When we leave and we're in a firefight and we're trying to get on the helicopter, I'll be the last one on.
Hmm.
All you guys are on. I'll jump up on the skid as we're taking off, and I'm not going to leave you on the ground. And that starts to build courage in the your team. And then I was using a principle of after action review when we came back from a mission. After we did the intel debrief, then I'd get the team together and we would talk about, okay, what was our mission? What did we do? What went well, what didn't go so well, what happened? Um, and Rafa, I saw you one time, you kind of hesitated to get up and move. What was going on? And you say, well, I saw Jones. Jones was face down in the dirt. He wasn't going to move at all.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
that scared me. I mean, what was he doing down? So there's some friction going on now between you and John. So let's talk about it. And let's figure out what was happening. And if you've got something you want to say, let's say it because we can't let that impact us psychologically on the next mission.
Right.
So if we have some issues, we need to resolve those things while they're fresh on our mind before we start training for that next mission.
One thing I didn't ask you regarding your gear, how much food did you take on these missions?
My my plan and most of my team uh, ate one meal a day. I mean,
Wow.
we one full
One meal per day.
one meal. So I would carry. I usually ate. You had the American um, rations, but and the indigenous people had indigenous rations because when they ate the things that we ate, messed their stomach up or
Hmm.
whatever, they didn't like it.
Hmm.
Um, so across time, a ration was developed for them that was like a big portion of rice, some kind of meat, and some other things that they could mix in with it. I started using those. So I would take that rice, wet it, mix some uh, pieces of lamb or fish heads or whatever in with it, and kind of roll it into a ball and put it in my pocket. And it would stick together. It was sticky rice. And I could pull it out and just eat part of it, periodically during the day. Um, Most of the rations came with some kind of a little candy bar or rice bar or something. I might eat one of those for breakfast, so I kind of spread it out because my focus wasn't so much on eating as it was um, knowing where the bad guys were and accomplishing the mission so we could get out of there.
Wow.
And you had to have water. So
And how much water did you carry?
uh, depending on whether it was the rainy season or not, uh, 4 quarts.
Hmm.
And then with the plan of collecting water, if it rained at night, a little poncho I had, I could kind of set it up so it was catching, the rainwater, and I could put some of that water into the canteens to fill them back up. Um,
So you would have some type of filter in the canteens to filter the
we
rainwater, or
no, we had what was called water purification tablets, which was
purification? Yeah,
mostly iodine,
right.
and which tasted terrible. But if you didn't use those things,
Get sick.
you're probably going to end up being a sick little puppy because the
Wow,
water just had so much stuff in it. Um,
crazy, unbelievable. All right, so let's talk about leadership and staying on that track. You everything you talk about here is leading from the front. Making sure that your guys are good, that are following what you say, for them to have that trust in you, so powerful. And I know that you do a lot of consulting now for businesses. What do you feel give me a couple of maybe criteria uh, to be a good leader in business and life, to be a man where other people can follow him, trust him. I'm a big believer that, in our day and age now, you know, a lot of men think that they're leaders because their rank is respected, right? And I'm not a big rank follower, but for the most part, you're in a job, you're in a position where you have to, he's your boss or he's your supervisor or manager. But I'm about really following the person, right? Forget about what rank they are. So, how do you develop and what are the criteria really for top-notch leaders that you've seen throughout your career?
well, let me let me give you an example. I think you'll like this. When I first got to SOG and I was put on a team, I was an officer. I was a lieutenant. Um, but when I was put on the team, there was a sergeant that
Mm-hmm.
was the team leader.
Mm-hmm.
Even though I technically outranked him because I didn't have experience, I was the assistant team leader. So he was the team leader, and part of his job was train me, teach me, evaluate me, vet me on what I'm doing when we're in contact and when I'm talking, putting in airstrikes, whatever I'm doing. He was watching me so that at some point he could say, "Okay, you can be a team leader now." And so I went on 4 missions. And at the end of the fourth one, um, then I moved to a team that didn't have a team leader because he'd been shot.
Mm-hmm.
So I went over and took over. I took over my own team, but I had to prove myself as a leader. My rank wouldn't do it, so I had to prove myself as a leader out there, in the gunfights and stuff before I could actually take over a team and be the leader. So Israelis used to do that. They'd send out the squadrons of planes and things, and the leader was typically the one with the most combat experience, even though he might be lower ranked than somebody else
Sure.
that was flying. Um, and you do the same thing, or should do the same thing, in corporate America, where the leader is the one that has the knowledge, the experience, and can demonstrate uh, so that people will follow him. If you just go by rank, if you just walk in on day one, and I'm the CEO, and you guys are all going to do what I tell you to do, you're going to have a hard time for a while.
Yeah.
And then, most of the examples that I've been giving you are at a team level.
Right.
As you get to a larger and larger unit, then even though I'm the leader, I can't, I won't be able to be the first one on the ground because I've got 5 more helicopters of people coming in behind me. I've got to manage all of those too, not just that first helicopter that went in. So I might be on the second or third helicopter
Mm-hmm.
because of the number of them I've got coming in so that I can manage, And so when you get to corporate America, the CEO up here with a 20,000 person organization can't be down on the front line here making sure that you're tightening the lug nuts just right. That's not my job.
Sure.
You're supervisors for that, team leads for that. So you have these different levels, uh, but leadership still is about uh, having the knowledge, having the skill set, understanding people, working with people, and it's different. And just to go back for a minute, I wanted to be a research chemist, and that was my plan. My plan was to get, when my time was up in the Army, I'd go finish school and be a research chemist. It didn't take long at all on these missions for me to realize I need to understand people better, not chemicals. I need to understand the motivation and psychology of what's going on. So when I went back to school, I actually changed to psychology and got a doctorate in psychology,
Wow.
so I could understand people. In the books, you'll see I tried to lay out in the books, this is what I saw in the beginning, and then here's some mistakes I made, and I saw this, and I changed this. As you go through the books, you'll see how I learned across time and quickly got to the point where I was watching the enemy, and I started noticing things about them. What did they do when we engage with them? What do they do? Well, for one thing, if you shoot at them, if they go down behind a tree, 95% of the time, you will see them stick the muzzle of their AK-47 around the right side of the tree from their perspective, and then the head comes right behind it. And if you know they're going to do that every time, then you're waiting on them to come around. There are things that we do instinctively when we get scared. So we can use those kinds of things against the bad guys and realize we're human. We do the same thing unless we train that out of us. So anyway, sorry.
You authored a book. It's the stress effect.
Yes.
And it's, basically, smart leaders make dumb decisions and what to do about it. And as a leader, yes, I mean, sometimes, especially when you're a growing leader, when you're in a position of leadership where your experience may be not at the highest level, you do make some dumb decisions. What have been some of your dumb decisions in a leadership position?
One is, we talked about stress a little earlier, not realizing the impact that stress is having on my decision-making ability.
Hmm.
Because as my stress level starts to jump up, I can't access my full IQ.
Hmm.
I can't access my full emotional intelligence. I can't make really effective decisions.
Hmm.
And I don't know that as a young
Hmm.
leader very well. I don't realize the
Sure.
impact that stress is having on my ability to make a decision. So sometimes, you know, you have to say, all right, I want to take a break at this point. And let's all think about the discussion we just had, the options we're considering. And when we come back from lunch, then I want to come back to that. We'll decide which option we're going to take and we'll move on. I think it's too important right now for us to make a decision because some of us are still kind of heated from the
Hmm.
discussion we've had and our stress level's a little high. Let's all go calm down and we come back and we'll make a good decision. So there are some times, where I don't like to get shot at. It kind of irritates me if you start shooting at me. And that was
Yeah.
one reason I carried so much ammunition because I'm going to shoot back.
Yeah.
And there's sometimes I need to stop shooting at you and I need to tell Jones he needs to be shooting at you
Hmm.
or whatever. So if I'm not careful when my stress level goes up, I get focused on what I'm going to do and instead of managing the battlefield, managing the gunfight that's going on. So I had to learn that. Um, Stay calm, manage the battlefield. I know they're moving around out there. Don't stop. You know, always keep moving. Don't stop in this little crop of rocks that we got here and decide you're going to get down behind the rocks and be able to defend yourself.
Right.
You can do that. The problem is you've got it's like having a big amoeba in front of you, and they're just gonna encircle you. And now you're the dinner, and you're right in the middle of them. You can't get away. They
Yeah.
got you because you
Yeah.
stopped. Um,
Wow.
don't make decisions like that. Manage them. You know.
Now, you were an instructor in Ranger School.
Mhm.
How did you, I mean, were you able to see those soldiers that were coming up that had a lot of leadership potential, or do you think that anyone could just be taught leadership skills and then be a good leader?
I think, regardless of how good you are, there's some skill sets you just have to learn. Um, some people some people tend to do it faster than others.
Hmm.
Some people have the mindset, they have the courage, they have whatever skills it might require in this particular setting. You know, because I graded Ranger students when they go out on patrols all the time, and when they're out there, they're being graded, and and they rotate through positions. So one guy takes us out there and gets us part of the way to the objective. I take him out. I put a new guy in, and he picks up the mission from there and moves out. So I got to see people. A lot of, I mean, thousands of people came through. I got to see a lot of them and grade them and see the mistakes they were making. And some people just um, have it together better, even though they're not eating, they're not sleeping, they're carrying all that weight, they're going up and down the mountains. Um, some people can do that better than others and still be able to think and make good decisions. And my job as an instructor was to grade you and show you where you are and give you feedback on this is what you need to start doing
Sure.
to be a better leader.
Sure. I have here you had 1,200 plus free fall parachute jumps. That's a that's a lot. That is a lot.
It sounds like a lot, but some of the guys had a lot more, you know. But anyway, um,
I mean, that's a lot. So my question here is, I mean, you've jumped out of airplanes over 1,000 times. You're still competing, from what I understand, in Ironman competitions. You're still trained, you practice, you stay. I mean, you're in great shape. I mean, talk to me. How do you do it? Where's the magic?
it's still up here. It's a mindset. Uh, Jumping out of an airplane is it's a mindset. When you get to if you're doing free fall, it's a mindset. If you go out with a static line, I mean, you got a rope tied to your parachute that's going to pull it out once you go out the door. But if you go out free fall,
Hmm.
you're going to hit the ground if you don't take some action at the right time to deploy the parachute. And uh, with the halo jumps that we were doing, I mean, you step out of a plane at 20,000, 30,000 feet.
Wow.
It's a it's a long fall before it's time to open the parachute, and a lot of things can happen. And particularly when you do it at night, and you've got a small little area you're trying to get into, and the winds are blowing. Um, so it's going to run your stress level up a little bit. But I practiced that a lot. I made a lot of jumps that I didn't have to make because I wanted to practice. I wanted to get better. So that as I moved on from being an instructor there and moved back out into, a unit that's going to be deployed, I wanted to be sharp. I want to be able to move through the night without making noise. I want to be able to smell people. I want to be able to hear people.
Hmm.
I want all of my senses working. I want to sharpen all of those up
Yeah.
um, so that I can use those skills when I go back out.
How do you stay sharp now, though? I mean, you're talking still out there training, doing things. I mean, you have a black belt in karate. What style of karate do you have a black belt in?
Taekwondo. But
Nice.
then I mixed a lot of, the military combatives and everything.
Hmm.
I mean, you don't need to be out there, you know, throwing these head high kicks and all that stuff.
Hmm.
When I train people, I we focus lower, things that very hard to stop because it gets there so quick
Yeah.
and it hurts so much.
Yeah. And you're
Doesn't look
a
fancy,
master.
but it hurts.
You're a master scuba diver also.
Yeah, I haven't been uh, able to do that as much recent. I just don't have time. I'm
Yeah.
just doing so much stuff right now. I'm focusing. I've taken some of the time away from the things that you're mentioning to try to spend on working with helping vets.
Hmm.
Um, a lot of guys um, are still struggling from Afghanistan or
Hmm.
wherever they've been. Uh,
Hmm.
anybody, you don't have to be military, anybody can get PTSD.
Hmm.
You can have a car accident and end up with PTSD. I mean, there are a
Hmm.
lot of things that can drive that. But so I spend a lot of time, like when we, to come back to real time, when we finish our talk today, I, I've got a person that I'll be working with, um, that I've been working with now for several months trying to help and
Hmm.
get over something that happened. And I have a list of people that I work with. I One of the things that that they tell me is after our first conversation, it's wow, this is different. I've been going to VA and going to VA, and I talk to the doctors and I talk to them, and I'm describing what I'm feeling and what's happening, in my mind, and they look at me and they nod their head, and then I can see they don't have a clue what I'm saying
Yeah.
because they haven't been there, they haven't experienced it.
Yeah.
But when they talk to me, I know what a bullet sounds like when it comes by. I know what the pressure feels like from a blast when it
Hmm.
hits you and stuns you and trying to figure out what your name is and stuff like that. So, it makes it easier for me to talk to them.
So, Dick, do you have PTSD?
I'm sorry.
Do you have PTSD?
Oh, I I I don't think you could be in SOG
Hmm.
uh, without experiencing it. Not as an operator. You go out there two or three times. Some people go out one time and
Hmm.
they've got it. So we all end up with some level of it, and then the question becomes, how do you deal with it? I was very fortunate, I think, when I came back from Vietnam, going to the Rangers. I'm standing there with the 40 people around me are all combat vets. They had all, to be an instructor at that time, you had to have combat experience. So
Hmm.
I'm there with 40 friends, all with combat experience that I can talk to, that could talk to me. We understand each other. So I was fortunate. A lot of people came back from Vietnam and they just went out into the civilian world and there was nobody they could talk to.
Yeah.
And
But let me ask you this, and this is something where from law enforcement and almost 20 years serving in very, very high violent and stressful situations, it's for some people, they process it a little bit different. There are guys, and I tell stories about, you know, literally having a kid's brain splattered in my hand after a drive-by shooting,
mhm.
and where things stay with you, being in a gunfight, being in and all that. But it's the some individuals just process it different. Some, I have partners of mine that even to this day they have PTSD from some of the incidents that we were part of. To me, uh, I got to tell you that there were I was in some heavy, heavy, nasty things. The only thing that ever stayed with me is when a baby, a year-old baby, died in my arms. And I say, and I talk about this often. all the other things, all the people that I, found hanging, escaped from my grip and dove down 20 stories and people that I found dead or people that were, getting shot right in front of me and brain matter everywhere. I slept fine that night. I slept fine that night. And I think after a while, what happens is, you get to a point where it didn't hit me the same way. It's not that I was apathetic, but it was just that, working in such a violent city and seeing all that, I was able to process it a little bit different. Do you see that in the military?
Yes. I mean, some people do, and it's interesting sometimes to see what triggers an episode, and it might be some little thing that your partner standing next to you didn't think anything about what just happened.
Yeah.
Nobody, it got you
Yeah.
because you went back somewhere
Hmm.
and it triggered something that might have
Sure.
happened several years ago, and all of a sudden, you're a little nervous um but yeah, and but having somebody that you can talk to, and
Oh
I'm
yeah.
not
Oh yeah.
necessarily saying you got to go have a therapist.
Hmm.
One of the things we try to work with corporate America with, and when working with the military, is
Hmm.
have a buddy. When you
Yeah.
when you went to Ranger School, the first thing they did was they paired you up.
Yeah.
This is your Ranger buddy.
Sure.
Take care of each other. Watch each other. And so we tell them now, you got to have a buddy. So
I
we're
love
going
that.
to put you in the buddy teams today. And, if you and I are buddies, it's okay for me to look at you and say,
Yeah.
are you okay?
For sure.
You look
Uh,
like you're in a daze this morning, or you're sleepy this morning.
yeah.
Or for me to come to you and say, hey, man, I stayed up watching that stupid ball game last night. I, I'm not on the top of my game this morning. So keep an eye on me. Don't let me do something stupid.
Yeah.
And it's okay because you and I can do that. And as a team, we start to get so we can do that.
I love that, man. That's very powerful. Very powerful. And the fact that you're out there still helping veterans, still helping people, leading from the front, living a life that embodies this warrior spirit that you've carried with you for so many decades. It's an honor to have you on for sure. Where can people find you, look you up, name of your books, all that good stuff?
Uh, SOG, code name Dynamite.
Yep.
There's 2 volumes.
I'm
Uh,
jumping into that this week.
yeah, you read book one. This kind of shows you how I got there, how I started to learn to do the job, what was really going on. The book two um, looks like it, but a little different cover, but book two on it. This really starts to get into the details, the principles, and every mission that's in here has an after action review at the end of it, has lessons learned at the end of it. So you can see what I'm learning to do and not to do as a leader when we go on the missions. And all of that stuff is in there. It's on Amazon. You can go to our website, our company website, and
What is
uh,
your company website?
order these off the line. If you go to www.hpsys.com S CD/HTML. You can get signed copies of these from
That's
us,
great.
or
Okay.
if you go to Amazon, it won't be signed, but you come to our website and I'll sign it before I send it out to you.
Oh, that's great.
You can also get the stress effect that on our website, the same place you go to for the SOG
That's
book,
great.
or from Amazon. But if you get it from us, it'll be signed, when you get it there. You'll find a lot of other things on our website, all kind of stress resources, um, people who run, outdoor retreats and things for people who are struggling a little bit. So you find a lot of resources like that. I created a number of years ago a questionnaire that we call Arsenal that looks at the 7 best practices uh, for stress resilience. If you
Mhm.
want to build your stress resilience, here are the 7 best practices to do that. So you answer the questions on the questionnaire, and then it generates a report for you. And it says on awareness, here's where you are. Here's some things you need to do to raise your awareness ability higher on exercise, on nutrition, on whatever it is of the 7 practices. This is what you can do. So you go work on those, and your stress resilience goes up. You get stronger.
Mhm.
Um, and if you're struggling with some things, it can help you overcome that. Um, so we use that with vets. The Marines use it. The Navy uses it.
Yeah.
We give it, to vets. Um, Nowhere in that questionnaire does it ever say, "Have you thought about harming yourself in the last 2 weeks? Have you thought about harming somebody else in the last 2 weeks?" The problem with the VA questionnaires is they spend so much time asking you if you're thinking about harming yourself. By the time you get through, you think, well, maybe that's what I'm supposed to be doing or supposed to be thinking about.
Crazy.
This doesn't
Crazy.
do that, but
Yeah.
it gives you feedback on here's some things you want to focus on. And in this one over here, on this dimension, you might want to think about talking to someone because you're kind of
Yeah.
getting on the edge.
No doubt.
But people use it from people who have PTSD all the way up to elite athletes, elite soldiers, elite, police forces use it. So very powerful. It's on the website too. You'll see it when you get there.
That's
Um,
great. Well,
but
we're
if
going to
you
add those on the show notes so people could link out and order your books and all that good stuff and get that. Listen, Dick, man, it's been an honor to have you on. What a great, great conversation. I was completely just sitting there listening and absorbing. So I can't wait to jump into your book today and start reading it because, I mean, your stories are extremely powerful. Not only that, but you're a very humble man, and you're a hero in my book.
all right. Well, thank you. And I appreciate the opportunity to come in and share some thoughts, and hopefully you know, your followers are going to get something out of it,
Oh,
and
they
some
will.
vets out there someplace are going to say, "Oh, yeah, that might work. I might want to do that, see that. I might want to talk to this guy." So,
Yeah, for sure. For sure. No doubt about it. Thank you again for being on. I appreciate you.
oh, thank you. I really appreciate the work you're doing, and honored to be here.
All right, guys, if you're enjoying this channel, I want you to do me a favor. Smash the subscribe button, turn on the notification bell, share it, comment, whatever you can do to spread the wealth here. I really appreciate you. We're really trying to get this channel moving in the right direction, and we're working really against YouTube and all social media. Anything that has to do with manhood, anything that has to do with masculinity, they don't like. But we are moving forward despite. It doesn't matter what they're doing, we're doing good work here. So support us, and we'll continue bringing you great content. God bless you, and see you on the next one.